Hi friends, welcome back. This is going to be an ongoing theme, and I'm pretty sure that you guys have probably figured it out by now, but this is going to be another fairly uneventful video. We're going to look at an overview of my spending from my last paycheck and then do my budget for the paycheck that I received today. I'm filming this on September 19th. We are also going to check in on my Chase card, the statement period for which had not closed the last time I filmed, and color in some more payoff trackers. Before we get into this, I do want to clarify that not all of my spending actually makes it onto the paycheck budget. I track everything in the expense trackers at the back of each month. So these are empty because I didn't fill everything out, but anything that I would be tracking would end up in here. And that's how I know what my unbudgeted spending is. I haven't been adding it into the budget. And I think I'm going to continue doing that, at least for the time being, just because it's easier for me to see where I ended up relative to what I planned, and then take a look at whether or not my unbudgeted spending took up the remaining balance that I had. I'm not going to go through my last paycheck budget in detail. If you want to know the detail of all of the categories, then I would suggest going back to my previous video where I went through everything. But just as some general highlights, apparently I had $35.16 in PayPal that I did not know existed, so that was an unexpected cash out, which gave me an extra $35. I also somehow managed to misread my premium for my car insurance, despite the fact that I have been with my insurance company for multiple years now, and this was not my first renewal notice. Because I pay every 6 months rather than on a monthly basis, I get a discount, and the amount that I had budgeted for was the amount without the discount. So that ended up being about $70 less than I was expecting it to. So all told, I had about $105 of upside for my previous paycheck. My car insurance piece is not in here. My fixed expenses were pretty much on budget, same as with my previous paycheck. I usually come in a little bit under just because I round up on the cents. So under budget by about $1.30. For my variable expenses, I was under budget on gas by a little under $12. I did not carry that number all the way through here. My savings is what my savings always is. Bang on, nothing surprising there. And then my debt, similar situation to my fixed expenses, rounded up slightly on the Affirm, so I was technically 4 cents under what I said I was going to pay. Spending that is not on here, because most of it goes through the horse account, was my horse's vet bills. He did actually end up testing positive for Lyme, so that was a huge relief. We did run a full blood panel on him, which did come back completely normal, so as far as we know, it is just the Lyme. He started on antibiotics at the beginning of last week, and he seems to be doing a lot better already, so that is a huge relief. I did have to spend some money that I wasn't planning on spending, but all in all, I ended up having $374 of unexpected vet bills. $200 of that came out of the horse account, and then $174 I did pull out of my emergency fund. But October is a 3-paycheck month, so my plan is to replenish that in addition to my usual emergency fund contributions that I make every paycheck. As far as other unbudgeted spending goes, I spent in total $355.89 outside of the vet bills that I had not planned on spending. Most of it was running related. I entered a 5K that is next weekend that I was not sure if I was going to do or not, so I did not budget for it. That ended up being $44. I had a discount because of the run club that I belong to. I also had a coupon for Fleet Feet because the run club that I belong to is through them. And I needed to get a running belt and a handheld water bottle because I've been running with my Yeti, which is quite challenging. It's only 18 ounces, but it is not constructed to be held in that fashion while sweating. So I did get a handheld water bottle with a pouch and stuff on it that my phone can go in, and a couple pairs of socks, and a roller for my shins because they're quite finicky, and anything that I can do to help them is good. So picked up all that stuff. That ended up being around $250 in total. There were a few other things in there too, which was not ideal, but I tell myself that I will use all of it. I have already used all of it, well, most of it already. It's not stuff that I'm going to be replacing on a regular basis, so it's not like this is a frequent cash outlay. And while I did end up coming in about $120 over my leftovers of $236.18, none of that is being floated on a credit card. It came out of my checking account cushion, but it is not sitting on a card accruing interest. I did flow some of it through my credit card just because I had some good cashback offers that I wanted to take advantage of, but I paid those transactions off immediately as soon as they posted. So there won't be any interest hitting for those. I also bought about $20 worth of food, which I probably should start adding to my budgets, but I'm not going to, again, because for every week or two that I have where I do get something, I have a couple months where I don't, and I expect that trend to stay that way. I also bought unexpected hockey tickets for a reason that I do not want to go into. Just know that it's special and, in my opinion, worth it. I don't want to say exactly what it's for because I don't want to get too specific about where I live, but it's an important night, and if you are a follower of the NHL, you may or may not be able to guess what that moment is, but jumped on those tickets, was able to get them for face value before dynamic pricing drove the prices up. So I am quite happy about that, and if there's one thing that I find myself not regretting when it comes to my spending, it is my experiences, hockey tickets, concert tickets, things like that. So I am allowing myself that little bit of fun. So in summary, all told, I did eat about $120 in my checking account cushion, and this leftovers of $236 is basically zero. So not the greatest, but really glad that I didn't have to actually float anything on a credit card, and hoping to keep that trend up. Now let's move on to the next unexciting part. Paycheck date 9/19/2025, which is today. My inflows, they're actually multiple this month, shockingly. We have my paycheck for the usual amount of $2,717.09. We also have a refund that I did not know that I was getting for the horse trial that I was supposed to go to. It is not the full entry fee, sadly. It would have been a nice $200 if it had been, but I did get a refund for the starter fees, so that was $35. And then I also get a refund on my car insurance. I get car insurance through Allstate, and I'm enrolled in their DriveWise program, so it's a tiny policy credit, but it is a policy credit nonetheless. So that was $8.78. I don't know why I'm doing it that way, because I like to keep the budgeted amounts rounded down for my income. So if I do it this way, budgeted amount is $27.60, 0 cents. Bit more going on in terms of fixed expenses for this paycheck. We have my 2 YouTube memberships. Those come out tomorrow. It's $3 and some cents, so budgeting $4 for each. My YouTube Premium comes out next week. Budgeted $15 for that. And then nothing happens until October 1st, when all the things hit. My rent, my storage unit, my Google Workspace, Patreon, and Hulu is supposed to hit then, but I think I may be canceling it before it does. I'll put it in here just in case, but a little bit mad at Disney right now for reasons that anybody that follows the news would probably know. So that might not last, particularly given that the shows that are on there that I really like are ones that I can get from half-price books on DVD for $10 a season. Not saying I'm going to go buy those DVDs right now, but they are a thing that I could get if I wanted to. I digress though. My fixed expense total is $885. Brings us down to a leftover amount of $1,875 exactly. Therapy will be $50 for this paycheck. Gas, I'm actually going to budget $100 this paycheck because I had to get gas today and I have a bit of driving that I don't normally have to do because of the 5K and a couple of other things. So just going to round up, and that should get me 3 tanks without any trouble. And then I also have my plain products subscription, well, one of them refilling, which is $56 roughly, which brings me down to $206. The plain products probably feels unnecessary, but I try really hard to minimize the amount of plastic that I use that is single use. And I really like that their products come in aluminum bottles and I can mail them back after I finish what is in them. So to me, that is a worthwhile premium to pay, even though I know that certain personal finance people on YouTube would say irresponsible while carrying debt. I do not care. Next up, we have my savings, which are what they would usually be. Oh, that was the other thing I forgot. I did have to spend $200 on an oil change and an air filter change in my car last paycheck, but that came out of the sinking fund, so it had absolutely no impact on my actual spending. Love that. Sinking funds are great. 10 out of 10 would recommend. $955 towards saving and sinking funds, which brings my leftover amount down to $714. And then the only payment that I'm making with this paycheck towards my debt is towards my Chase card. I am bumping my monthly payment up to $600. The minimum currently is, I want to say, $536. So that's an extra 60 some on top of that. But it will help to make a bigger dent in it. So that is going to be $600 flat, which brings me down to a leftover amount of $114. Which basically covers my unbudgeted spending from my last paycheck, but we don't want to live in that world, so we're going to ignore it. And that is that for this paycheck. I am going to make that Chase payment right now and also do a little bit of a debt check-in. When I initially filled this out, we started out with a total balance of $17,102 on this card, so every star on it means I have decreased the balance by $171.02. My payment that I made in my first video on this channel did successfully reduce that balance, so we get to color 1 star in, which is going to be the theme for all of these for a very long time, but gotta take the small wins while we can, right? My statement balance for my statement from September 7th is $16,912.32. I needed to be down to $16,930.98 in order to be able to color a star in, so we have done that successfully. And now I am going to make that next $600 payment. Just kidding. My minimum amount due for this month is $529, so this is an extra $71 over that. And the way that Chase calculates my minimum payments is they take the interest for the previous statement period and then they add 1% of the balance to it. So currently it's $300 and some in interest, and then somewhere in the region of $170 additional. So I am adding essentially another 40% on top of that. That payment has been made, so I'm actually going to put that in here. The other update on my Chase card is that they actually reduced my limit by $800. I got that notice a few days ago. It's not really a big deal because I haven't put a single charge on that card since last year. And obviously I am reducing that balance every month, but it is kind of annoying from a utilization perspective because that's more than 1% of my total credit limit, but we will deal with it. And in theory, they will give it back to me if my credit score goes up, but they don't need to. I really do not need to have as much of a credit line as I do, obviously. So that's not something I'm really worried about, but it was an update that I did want to give. I have one other update to give too, which is that I have decided I'm going to make a little bit of a change in my payoff strategy. It's not a huge change, but unlike Chase and the Visa that I have through my bank, the minimum payments on my Discover cards are basically just covering interest and maybe a few dollars additional. So every payment that I make is really not putting a very big dent in the balance at all. I think I calculated that for my highest interest card, it's only reducing the overall balance by about $13 per payment that I make, which nobody wants. Nobody likes that. So I have decided that at least through the end of the year, and honestly probably longer, any extra payments that I make in addition to Chase, which I'm paying more than the minimum payment overall, I am going to make towards that Discover card. Based on the rough budgeting that I did about a month ago through the end of the year, I should be able to pay off about 10% of that card, which is somewhere in the region of $500 to $600 by the end of the year. I'm not sure if I will continue to do that next year, but I want to get myself to a point where that $141 minimum payment that I'm putting towards that card is actually reducing the balance. This obviously does. It will not be very long before the $600 is reducing the balance on my Chase card by $300 a month, and that's only going to continue going up, obviously. So if I can get to a point where those Discover payments are reducing my balance on that card by even $50 or $60 a month, that would be a big win and would save me a decent chunk of money. Because based on the credit card payment calculator, this thing is not supposed to be paid off for like 3 years. Again, I'm not planning to let it take that long. That does not take into account raises and bonuses and all of that. But I really do not want to be paying $130 a month in interest on my Discover for 3 years. That is stupid. So anything that I can do to reduce that balance will be good. I'm also thinking that that will probably be something that I'll be doing at the end of a pay period. As nice as it would be to get to the end of the year and be able to be like, look guys, we're making a big payment to pay off this percentage of the balance, that obviously doesn't save me any interest in the meantime. So even though it's not going to be very exciting, I will be trying to make those extra payments in these videos, most likely. Get to the end of the pay period, see how much I have left over from what I budgeted, what my unbudgeted spending was, and then make a payment out of what's left. Unfortunately, that's all I've got for you guys in this video. Really not much going on. I haven't gotten any news about raises or anything like that, so I don't get to rejig my whole budget. But takeaways, yes, I did spend more money than I brought in on my last paycheck, but I did not have to put anything on a credit card and leave it there. I will be getting some cash back for my gas purchases and things like that, which, you know, anything helps. I did have some unexpected money come in on this pay period, which is always nice. And hopefully in the next 2 weeks, I can not spend more than I have left over, and ideally not really spend out of my budget at all. But we'll see. Thank you to everyone who has watched and subscribed so far. I would be doing this even if you weren't here, but it is nice to feel like I am not alone in going through this process. So hopefully at some point I'll be able to generate some excitement, help you learn something. I don't know. We'll see. But really appreciate it, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be the October 3rd paycheck. There should be more updates in that one, though, because all my other statement periods should close by the time I make that video. So we will have an overall credit card balance update then. See you guys in the next one. Bye.